Some of the biggest names in British music have written to the Culture Secretary, warning him that hundreds of thousands of jobs in the live music industry are at risk. 1,500 artists say the government needs to act to save what they call a world's leading business. And we can speak to one of those artists who signed the letter, the musician KT Tunstall. KT, really good to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us all the way from over there in LA. Tell us, why did you...
Pleasure, Neil.
Thanks very much. Well, tell us, why did you sign up to the letter?
Well, I mean, sure, I'm in LA now, but I owe a huge debt to that entire structure of grassroots venues back in the UK, as do almost all the artists that come out of Britain. And it was put into perspective for me today that per capita, we are the second biggest live ticket market in the world for live music. The live music scene is an enormous success story in Britain for the last 2 decades. It's bringing in $4.5 billion a year, employing over 200,000 people. And we're basically in a situation where sport is being given that support, but unfortunately the live music sector is not.
Why do you think that might be? I don't think Oliver Dowden's particularly a footballer, and certainly not necessarily much of a musician. But why do you think the preferential treatment?
I think there's just a bit of a historical attitude towards music that it kind of gets on with itself, you know? People form bands in garages, people play pubs and clubs, and then suddenly, magically, they turn into headliners at Glastonbury. But of course, that's not how it works. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of energy, and it does take a lot of money. And it's not just the musicians on stage, it's this entire structure of people working, who are, by the way, mostly freelancers, so aren't eligible for much of the government support, a lot of them. And unfortunately, because of that freelance nature of music industry, if they can't get any support, they will get jobs elsewhere. So even if we do go back to playing, there won't necessarily be a workforce left to actually support those gigs. But as an ambassador of the Music Venue Trust, I am also privy to the fact that 97% of grassroots venues will not be able to stay open with any kind of social distancing. And the only way of avoiding that is some government assistance.
I wonder whether part of the problem might well be that for many people, perhaps those who are not regular concert or gig goers, they tend to think of the O2, the Manchester Arena, these massive venues that exist. But actually, fundamentally, what is the backbone of the British music industry, as you've already mentioned, are those smaller places that get you out there in front of the public and get you the experience, the launch pads.
And they're labours of love, these venues. You know, they're constantly up against rising business taxes. They're constantly up against developers trying to buy the properties and turn them into flats. And they're just, to be honest, a lot of them are hanging on by the skin of their teeth anyway, regardless of the pandemic and what has, you know, happened because of that. So it's really... it's crunch time. I've heard people talking about this in terms of live music as an extinction level event, and it sounds dramatic. It really is. This is a really dramatic potential future for live music, and really we've got to look at how important live music and the experience of live music is to our country, because it's really in peril right now. How's lockdown been then for a musician like yourself? I mean, have you been able to collaborate with people? We've seen plenty of video conference bands coming together. I mean, has that been your experience? I found it pretty hard to be creative during this time. I managed to do a charity song about washing your hands for WaterAid and War Child, and that was great. And I wrote a 20-second chorus, which is the perfect hand wash. So I'm very proud of that. But, you know, all of the videos you see, it's impossible to play in real time. So we're having to kind of cheat a little bit there. And it's really tough, and it's very isolating for everyone, not just for musicians, obviously. But music, I did a fantastic panel today with Herbie Hancock. I still can't believe I was talking to Herbie Hancock. But he really said what I feel about music is that music is a healing force. Music is transcendent of language. It's such a galvanizer, it's such a hope giver, and it's needed more than ever right now. And you know, the streaming income is just a mess at the moment for musicians. They're not making any money from that. So really, we need to, and it's not a criticism of government at all, it's simply we have to ask them to help us in this situation. Of course, I'm very lucky. I've got a couple of hits that make my money, but look, these new artists are just completely done for, and we're looking at an entire generation of artists potentially having to walk away from doing it at all because they just need to go and get work elsewhere.
Sing it, sister. KT Tunstall, many thanks for joining us in the programme. Really lovely to talk to you.